Ooh.
Cop or drop, we get a Seth Jarvis deal done by Labor Day.
How many days till Labor Day? We're looking at like 10?
Basically 2 weeks. 2 weeks from yesterday.
Yeah, I'm going to cop this.
Okay.
I'm going to
get a deal done by Labor Day. Get a deal done by Labor Day. Seth Jarvis, let's go.
Granted, if you would have told me get a deal done in the next 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago, probably would have copped that too.
Yeah, well, there's that.
So my history's not great on predicting what the Canes are going to do. I think the hard part, and I've had this conversation. By the way, we can cut cop or drop there. I want to talk Seth Jarvis. I think the hard part is the way I would operate a team as a GM or as a head of hockey operations or an owner is very different than the way the Canes choose to. That's not to say there's a right and a wrong. I think it's actually more of a like just personal preferences. Like our styles would be different. The Canes take their time. And I'm somebody who more is like when you know, right? I play it a little bit more by my gut, maybe even take a little bit more of a risk. But I'm comfortable with that as long as I know in the moment I was making the decision that I think is best. Seth Jarvis, by the way, as of I think it was today, restricted free agents that haven't agreed to a deal are off NHL rosters. So if you were to go to like the official NHL roster website, Seth Jarvis is not a Carolina Hurricane right now because he doesn't have a deal to play next year. And that is jarring to see. Right, and there were some people online reacting to that and like, what? Where'd he go? What does this mean? It literally just means he's a restricted free agent and he doesn't have a deal yet. And today is the day that they put that decision out there in roster form. Here's the thing: Seth Jarvis, no news is no news is no news. Right, we're trying to find news and like him not being on a roster, or we're trying to find news and him playing golf on social media. We're trying to find news. In actuality, there really isn't any news. And while the cliche is no news is good news, I'm going to go back to I think the best way to describe what this is, as far as like an analogy or something we can relate it to. Seth Jarvis is still a shark attack to me. Right? Like if I'm not actually this way, I go in the ocean, no problems. But if you are somebody that is afraid of a shark attack, you can have the smartest people you know give you the best stats in the world that like it's actually 1 out of 11 million that you would even be attacked by a shark, and 1 out of a couple 100,000 out of those attacks that are going to be fatal. So there's actually 1 out of that you're not going to get any kind of hurt. You're more likely to get hurt, driving to the beat. Like you can have smart people that you trust and believe give you all of the good information, like the facts, that there's nothing to worry about. But if you're somebody that's afraid of shark attacks, you're just somebody that's afraid of shark attacks, right? You go in the water and you can't see what's in the water 5 feet next to you, and you don't like that feeling. And something just touched your foot, and it was definitely a shark. Definitely wasn't that kid with a boogie board going by right next to you. That thing was a hammerhead. And like, you can't get that out of your brain. Seth Jarvis, I have people I trust, people that cover hockey much better than I do, that know hockey much better than I do, that will look at me in the face and say, Seth Jarvis wants to be a Carolina Hurricane. The Carolina Hurricanes want Seth Jarvis to be a Carolina Hurricane. They are not in a rush because there's no reason to be in a rush, and this will get done. And if not, there's 4 more years of team control where they can still hammer it out. Like, there is no ticking clock to be extremely worried about. And I'm going, I hear you. I trust you. I believe in what you're saying. I'm still worried that it hasn't gotten done yet. Right? Does it matter that he's not on the roster? No. And again, smart people will tell you why. I tried to just a couple minutes ago. I don't know if I'm smart, but it means nothing. But at the same time, something just touched my foot, right? I'm a little scared here. And by the way, I saw somebody online talking about the, Andrei Svechnikov signed his when he was a restricted free agent later than this in the offseason, which is true. But you have to remember that was after one of the COVID weird years. So the offseason started much later because the whole season kind of pushed into the Stanley Cup was like yesterday. So they needed more time to get it done. I wouldn't say it's unusual. I would say the Seth Jarvis situation is just incomplete. Right? It's not an A+, it's not an F, it's not a B, it's not a C-. You're not passing, you're not failing. It's just incomplete. Now, with that being said, I don't know what could take so long if you just go, hey, 8 years, $8 million per. That sounds good to you. It sounds good to me. It sounds good to everybody. The comps are out there. Let's go ahead and make it happen. Right? And maybe actually that is the one reason why I do have that impending shark attack feeling, which is it seems like this shouldn't be a tough negotiation, right? It seems like there should be a very logical end, right? And it's sometimes you need that. Like I feel like an agent would be that, right? Like, listen, we could go back and forth. You could give me a number. I could go, oh my gosh, and storm out, and then I could come back in with a different number, and you could go, we can't do it. We can't do it and build the winner. And then I could go home and talk to my client, and then I'll ghost you for a week, and then I'll call and leave a message, and you won't pick up, but you'll be sitting there listening to the message while I'm leaving the message. We could do all of that to end up here with this number, or we could just get to this number now, sign it, start printing the jerseys, start selling them in the team store, and move on. Like, it seems like somebody should do that. But again, I think that's how I would operate. The Canes, as we've seen time and time again, they don't get uncomfortable by a long stall pause, right? You know, I don't know if this ever happens to you, Dennis. The algorithm on Instagram sometimes sends me like sales guys that are just telling me how to like make money. I don't know if you ever get these. They're like
not really, no.
Half motivational speakers, half sales guys, and they're just like,
I know you're talking about that.
Like, what do you do when somebody tells you this on the call when you're trying to sell them? And it's a big seminar, and they're like, no, you never say that. You trick them. You ask them about the weather. I'm like, what are we doing here? But one of their like, you know, the absolute bylaws of these guys, these slicksters in their nice suits. Mm-hmm. Is you never say the first number in a negotiation. I'm always going like, well, if everyone followed your rules, there'd just be stalemates. There'd just be like,
yeah,
hey, is the car still for sale? Yep. How much you want for it? How much are you willing to give? How much you want for it? What are you thinking on paying? What are you thinking on selling? And you're never going to get anywhere because you have these like, you ran into your match. Like the Canes are somebody that I believe are like very comfortable just sitting and letting the phone be silent for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and hoping that the other side gets impatient and finally blurts out like $5,000. Like, okay, now we finally get to start. It's I think that's just what's happening. Seth Jarvis, it's just a wait. It's a waiting game.
I think sometimes it's just the minutia of the contract. Like you have, like, say, for example, 8 years at $8 million a year. You might already have that agreed upon. It's what's considered signing bonus. What about no trade clause? What about these other things that might go into like the details of your contract? Because when it comes to signing bonus, you also have to agree on like for that year. Okay, signing bonus, you know, each year is like $4 million. That gets paid July 1st or however it is that you decide to do it. So there's like different little minutia things that you have to figure out before you officially sign a deal. So there's always like those kinds of small things that we don't think about because we just look at overall big number, but there's sometimes those little details you got to figure out.
Yeah, and I get that. And a lot of times you even hear like, you know, 8 years, $8 million, the final details still being worked out. Like, I don't know. It just seems like it should get done. It's not. I shouldn't be worried. Smart people tell me not to be worried. I want to be not worried. I'm a little worried.
Training camp's in 4 weeks. Their first preseason game is 5 weeks from today. There's time.
I'm not worried, but I'm a little worried.